Hello and welcome back to the Aura. This is going to be our second part of our present podcast. If you listened to the first one, which if you haven't, go listen to it. You can listen to this one first. It doesn't really matter which order you listen to them. They're all just different questions that we got submitted. So thank you to everybody who sent in questions. We got lots of questions this time. It was great, the response. And we want to thank you again, Mr. Myers, for coming onto our show.
It's a lot of fun. Glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
We love the openness and the candidness that you spoke to us and that you continue to speak to us in. And we got some great questions lined up for you today. And
awesome. Let's go.
We're excited to get it going.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I will be starting this off. This question is from a student we're going to call LP. Those are the initials on this one. And the question is this: what does Algoma University do to stop things like discrimination, racism, sexism, homophobia, things like this?
Well, those are, of course, all prohibited in terms of behavior. We have codes of conduct and a human rights policy under which people can file complaints, and those are taken very seriously. Mm-hmm. There's also a diversity committee at the university, which has a mandate to promote positive understanding on diversity issues. Mm-hmm. And I think by and large we do fairly well here.
Okay, that was the question, and you answered it well.
Yeah,
thank you.
Good.
All right, so I got the next question. Why did the Sioux Star write an article stating that Algoma was hoping to reach 20% international students, while currently the school is nearly 30% international students? So basically it's saying we already have 30% international. Why is it saying that it's only trying to get to 20%? Do you know anything about this or anything like that?
Oh, that surprises me. Do you know the date on that article?
I don't. It was just sent in.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to respond to that. It's really a question about the Sioux Star. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, we had stated that we hoped to get to 20%. We've done better than that. So the reality is now, I would say this year we are at about 28% international.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And we're currently working through a process to kind of figure out, what's the the longer term vision here. My guess is that something like 30% is probably about as high as we want to go in terms of international versus domestic students on campus. I think our objective going forward is probably to keep that ratio, but to do everything possible to ensure that we've got a better spread of our international students across different academic programs. Mm-hmm. And maybe also to, as much as you can, have a better diversity of students from different parts of the globe. Like a lot of universities, we currently have, a sort of heavy representation of students from East Asia, mm-hmm. China, Japan, Korea, that sort of thing. Yeah. From the Middle East. But the whole point of, attracting international students here is to, sort of have that, sense that you've got the whole world as part of your community.
So you can learn a lot more like that.
Yeah, so we're trying now to say, can't we find more students, let's say, from Latin America is an area where, we think we would like to have greater representation. We get a fair number of students from Europe already on exchanges, so that's fine. We're also interested in finding more students from the Indian subcontinent, mm-hmm. right, and from Africa. So Joanne Elvey is in Africa right now.
Oh, cool.
Going around, seeing if she can't start to establish more of a base. We've had some students in the last few years from different African countries, but it's been a relatively small number, and they kind of find us almost accidentally. We haven't been working at that systematically. So we've given her instruction that, going forward, we'd like not simply more students. What we'd like is a more diverse representation. So let's focus on Latin America, Africa, and the Indian subcontinent.
I love that. I especially like that because, for example, in my business classes, when there's a view that I've just held as because I'm from here, because just views that I just hold as this is how the whole world works, and then one of my friends raised their hand.
No,
that's not how it works. And it's like, I know for sure that those little things, those little tidbits of information will help me in the business world
Yeah.
later on in life.
Yeah.
So I think this will enrich. I
Yeah.
like the diversity we have here.
Well, I've always said, that the primary reason for bringing international students here is it's kind of a second best. What we really should be doing, ideally, is we'd have every one of our students go abroad for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have those
That'd be
opportunities. We have exchange opportunities, but it's very hard to persuade Canadian students to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
In part because we, as North Americans, basically are probably the worst on the planet in terms of learning other languages.
Really?
For very simple reason, right? The language that everybody wants to learn is English, and we already speak it. So
Yeah.
people come to us and they just want to talk our language. We have relatively little incentive to learn others. But just spend a little bit of time in China or Germany or someplace like that. They're very serious about learning other languages from an early age. So of course, by the time they get to university, hey, exchange program, sure, they can go anywhere because they speak different languages.
Yeah.
We can really only send people to places where they teach in English, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because actually I've heard before that English is actually one of the hardest languages to learn because of the complexity of it, not in the sense that we have so many words for the same thing, and not a lot of languages have that. But
And we have very complex spelling.
yeah,
English spelling is completely insane.
so that really says something about how.
But every
how
language
this
is
is
every
complex.
language is difficult in its own way and easy in its own way. Some international students would tell you they like English. They say it's really easy because I've heard them say it's really easy because there's no grammar. Well, that's not quite true. But if you compare it to some languages like German to be an example, an inflected language where you have to remember 6 different forms of every verb for every tense and all that kind of stuff. English looks very simple compared to that, or to Chinese with its tones and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we the objective is you want to bring the world to the Algoma campus. If you can't send the Algoma campus to the world.
Yes.
I suppose in an ideal world, if we were all studying abroad all the time, we wouldn't be so worried about bringing international students here.
I agree with that. I like the second best, but I'm personally going to try the first best. Hopefully sometime in my future that'd be really good.
Well, I hope you do. I think it's a fantastic experience. I learned that, as a sort of younger person myself. I remember as an undergraduate seeing these signs for, student exchange. You can go to, I remember at my university they said you can go to Siena in Italy. And I thought, that sounds nice, but, I'm really busy. I, have my basketball team or something like that.
You on the basketball team?
Seems really, well, no, it was like very low-level stuff, right, in the college intramural league. But, it seems really important to you at the time.
Yeah.
4 years later, you're thinking, man, was I ever an idiot? I could have gone and, spent a year in Italy, living in Siena and so on. I was able to do that later.
Yeah.
As a young professor. I spent a couple of summers living in that city, and it made me think, what a knucklehead I was not to take advantage of that opportunity when I was an undergrad. I could have lived here for a year, done courses that would have contributed to my degree. What a fantastic opportunity. And, so I became quite adamant that, if I had the chance, I'd certainly encourage people to do that as much as possible.
Awesome. Speaking of going abroad, my next question for you today is from a student from France, my old roommate, and this is actually the pool question that we talked about last broadcast. He likes to swim, and he was wondering if with the OUA needing us to revamp our GLC facilities, would you ever consider putting a swimming pool in there to, help?
Well, the most I would ever consider is that I still have a couple of little inflatable ones at home that Elizabeth used. I'd be willing to donate one of those.
Yeah.
A swimming pool is tremendously expensive
Really?
To build and to operate. I think the point to keep in mind is that there's actually an excellent swimming pool 2 blocks away at the John Rhodes.
Word.
And
yes.
our students, have every opportunity to pop over there and use that pool. I take my daughter over there.
Yeah, I've
on
been there.
Sundays.
It's a very nice pool.
Very nice pool. So
I think they have a free swim on Wednesdays too.
yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think Tom Morrow has made arrangements to facilitate that kind of thing and encourage it. So, in a community this size, it makes sense to share resources, and it doesn't make any sense at all to duplicate them.
Yeah.
It would be kind of insane to have a swimming pool here when we've got
swimming pool
another,
there.
first-rate swimming pool 2 blocks away,
Yeah.
and a relatively small population base.
Okay. That's a
But
good answer.
glad he likes to swim. Tell him to come and see me, and I'll take him over to the John Rhodes and show him where he can do that.
Okay, cool.
Great.
Thank you. I'll let him know.
All right, so we got our next question. It's kind of a question. It's I'm going to read the whole thing to you first. So it's from Jason, and it says this. Hi, Caleb. This is directed to Caleb.
Sorry.
Hey,
Richard.
Hey, Richard. I was disappointed when I tried to come back to school after being off for a year due to illness and shortage of funds. I was told by the registrar that I would have to transfer from Laurentian to Algoma, that all of my credits were no longer valid. I wrote a letter to the appeals committee in this regard back in September and did not receive any answer back. I'm sure I am not the only person in this situation. Can you ask the president if he has any plans to help students in my situation? If I return without resolution, it means I will need to go to school for an extra year to graduate. So, he's just saying that, what would you say for people in this situation? What can be done?
Well, you can't comment on a particular individual's situation. Even if you have all the facts, I obviously wouldn't have all the facts in this case.
Right.
But, I'd just make this general comment that one of the great things about Algoma is that, it's always possible to, get the ear of people who, make decisions. If you think that you haven't had your situation dealt with as well as you might like, you'd be surprised at how many people end up knocking on my door and saying, "Oh, can you explain this to me or help me with that?" That's not going to happen at most universities.
Yeah.
So
for sure not.
whoever, I think you said Jason, was that the name?
Jason.
If this would not be uncommon if Jason thinks that he hasn't quite received the appropriate answer or treatment in a particular case. Come and see us. The registrar himself, the guy's there 80 hours a week, and people certainly do not hesitate to walk in and see him and
Yeah.
ask for assistance or ask for a second chance or a second hearing. So.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the details of this case are, and obviously on the air, I wouldn't talk about anybody's specific case.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
This next question we have for you is from RJ, and this is what he has to say. Why were fees increased for the 2013-2014 school year when 2012-2013 audits had a $1.5 million surplus, and it was projected that the increase would only result in a $300,000 increase in student fees? Mm-hmm. That was the question.
Well, that's actually a very tough question. Well done by RJ or whoever that is. We go through a budgeting exercise every year. Mm-hmm. Since I came here, I actually put together a budget advisory panel. The old way of doing things was that the president just drafted the budget and brought it to the board and said, here's what we're going to spend, and here's what we need to do, and here's what tuition should be. I'd like to have a process where there's, more input from all of the stakeholders, as we say. So since I've arrived here, we've had a budget advisory panel each year that does most of the work in terms of figuring out, what will be the key elements of next year's budget. Mm-hmm. And that panel has always included student representation.
Yeah.
Its deliberations are, confidential. They have to be in a way because in a budget exercise, you're engaged in trade-offs and all that kind of stuff. So people have to be able to, speak freely and, not fear that someone's going to leave the room and say, aha, this person just agreed to that, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So there is a process that provides for that kind of input. To go to the specific point, so why did fees have to go up when we actually
had a surplus?
Showed a surplus? The surplus was not intended, and I think what's often hard to explain about budgeting stuff is that you have your ongoing, costs and revenues, and then at the end of a given year, you might end up with, some money left over as a sort of one-time surplus. You might also end up being short.
Mm-hmm.
We try to plan our budget so that we will not be in the red. We don't want to be short. As a new and small institution, I think we can't afford to have people saying, oh, geez, those folks over at Algoma can't even manage their budget. Look at that. They don't know what they're doing. So we're very careful to budget prudently to ensure that we stay in the black. But my direction to the budget committee every year is, I want a budget that is credible in terms of keeping us in the black, but I want you to aim for just a very, very small surplus. I usually say, $50,000 or something like that, which is like tiny on a $30 million operating budget. Right? So that's what we aim for. Now, what has happened in the last couple of years in a couple of ways is that the budget has, it's a forecast in a lot of respects. Some things you know exactly what they're going to cost, or you know exactly how much they're going to bring in. We have managed to have surpluses largely because of two things. We've spent less than anticipated in a number of areas where, we said, okay, we're going to hire the following. Geography would be a good example. The last couple of years, we have always included money for a new position in geography, and they have never filled it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, a big chunk of money in the budget for that, and didn't get spent. So that's surplus.
Gotcha.
The other thing is that we have each year had way more international students than we thought we would.
Okay.
And that's where the revenues are sort of showing up to be a lot higher than we anticipated. We're getting to be reasonably good at figuring out how you project how many domestic students you'll have, because there's a different process for recruiting them. They apply to the Ontario University Application Centre. The deadline is January 17th. You have a sense, okay, so we have this many first choice, the second, third choice. We know, of if you have so many first choice applicants on January 17th, 54% of them are actually going to show up in September. We know that, right, just by looking at past numbers and trends. International students,
up there.
You can't. They come.
Yeah.
They come or they don't come. So again, our budgeting philosophy has been guess on that as conservatively as you can, because you don't want to commit to a lot of spending and then find out we don't have any money to pay for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
and we have, I think, been very surprised at how many international students have shown up. That's where the surpluses come in. But if I may sort of go back to the key point that I wanted to make there, here's the crux of it. When you get a kind of one-time infusion of cash, because this year, there are a bunch more students than we thought, can you count on that every year? Well, not necessarily. So what we have been doing is we take whatever is left over at the end of the year, and we put that into repairs or refurbishment of our physical plant, of the buildings and so on. I think at a lot of places you would probably build more money into your budget for fixing up your buildings and doing things of that nature.
Yeah.
Our view is, probably makes more sense not to plan to spend a whole lot, and then if there is any money left over, then we can use that to do things like repaint the hallways. Unfortunately, the last couple of years it's meant spending money on things like putting a new roof on the Windsor Park, putting a new roof on the library this spring.
That's funny. That was one of the questions.
Yeah.
Oh, was that one of your questions? Yeah. So how much is that going to cost, and where's it coming from? Yeah. So the surplus we had last year from that larger than anticipated influx of international students. A lot of that's going to pay for the roof on the library.
Okay. Nice. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Who has the next question? Do you have the next question, or do I?
I'm sure I can find something here. Okay, this next question is from Mohammed, if I can find it. Which one is you? And he was wondering if there's any way that we can open up the registration for summer courses earlier, and if there's any way we can make the summer courses offered more varied, just because he's in the question I asked before, COSC, computer science.
Oh, yeah.
And his courses are very specific, and they're only offered once a year. So is there any way that we can give them a broader range of choice and open it up earlier so they can sign up quickly?
The question of when you can sign up for them, I'm not quite sure. I can certainly look into that if there's a way to move it up. we're always trying to make things more convenient for people. So interesting. I'll ask the registrar about that. In terms of the range of choice, well, I think it is improving.
Yeah.
It's really just a question of, supply and demand. How many students are there in the summer who want to take courses? We're slowly moving in the direction, and I think largely because of the influx of international students, of having more students on campus in the summer who are interested in taking courses.
Yeah.
So if they're here, we'll put on more courses.
Yeah.
A few years ago, there were, I think it would be fair to say we probably have twice as many summer students now as we did 3 years ago.
Nice.
So there are more courses for them.
Yeah.
But we're not at the point where the numbers are robust enough that you've got a lot of variety.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that most Canadian students don't want to study in the summer.
Yeah.
Right? Our tradition is, hey,
Absolutely.
it's summertime. I either have my job or there's some kind of vacation or something like that. It's an interesting point that you raise, you see, because the government itself has said to us, or they often hear from the sort of business community or something like that. Well, why aren't the universities operating year-round? Like they're wasting all that space. Why aren't they just running classes constantly? And when the government tells us you need to be running more courses in the summer, most of us say, well, we would love to, but we just can't get anyone to come. So we're doing our best. And quite frankly, I'd be delighted if we had more people here in the summer so that you've got a more robust curriculum. So it seems that the needle's moving in the right direction on that. So hopefully we'll grow the summer enrollments and then grow the summer offerings.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Sweet. Especially for me.
Take a summer course.
I'm already playing.
Can you promise on the air? I'm sorry.
I can't promise
That
on
was
the
mean.
air. But
I should have done that
plan
because now you're going to get me on the next question.
Okay, I see you, Richard.
Well, I have the next question. So, okay, so this is kind of a very general kind of question, and I think you've touched on it, not our last podcast with you because that was the last part, but the last time you were here, or maybe it was off air. I'm not sure. How can we make pub nights better, and kind of a general discussion of student life, like your take, like different things on student life. And this is sent to us by yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, pub night is a subset of student life. Did we talk about student life last time?
I don't
That
know.
off air.
That's what I'm saying.
Off air.
That we might have
Off
talked
air.
about it off air.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
sure.
the basic point is this. Until a couple of years ago, Algoma was the classic commuter campus, right? 75% of the students at Algoma University were from Sault Ste. Marie.
Mhm.
And, this is just a sort of simple kind of, sociological fact. Commuter campus, no student life. Why? Well, because all of your students live in their hometown. They have already, all of the friends that they ever need from high school. And
Yeah.
so, the typical behavior is borrow your mom's car, drive to campus, go to class, and then drive home, and then hang out with your friends and, do all the stuff that you've been doing, for years and years and years.
Yeah.
On any campus, it's usually the case that all of the vitality in student life and so on is driven by the people from away who've moved to the university and live on the campus because those people have to build a new life for themselves, right? So you show up in September, all your old friends are, they're back home or they're at some other university or a college or something. So now all of a sudden you have to make new friends with all these other people who are looking to make new friends, and so you start doing stuff on campus. What has, I think, made a big difference at Algoma is that, whereas in 2010, 75% of our students were from Sault Ste. Marie, it is now probably more like 45%.
Wow.
And
That's
we're
great
seeing,
years.
I think you can see, with the new residents and so on, the students who are, on campus all the time, that makes a big difference in terms of just, having people around, having people take the initiative to do things, right? So that's putting us on the right path. I think we still have, a lot to do. Student life here could be and should be much more vibrant than it is. We've tried to, help push that along by, for instance, bringing in, university level varsity sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of fun. You know, we were at the basketball game the other night. Little Algoma taking on that giant University of Toronto and beating them. You know, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And lots of people there to enjoy all of that. So that's good. We're trying to revive Theatre Algoma. We're in discussions with people who've been involved in theatre to get that up, because student theatre is a great thing for people to participate in, and then for people to come and watch and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's great what you guys are doing here with
Thank you.
Algoma University Radio. And we just need to, always do whatever we can to encourage more and more of that kind of stuff. So it's on my mind, and I'm always open to suggestions for new things that can be done. I think you guys saw, fairly supportive. You had an interesting initiative, and I think I tracked you down and said, how can we help?
Yeah.
That's how we want to do this.
Absolutely.
On the campus pub, now I'm not much of an expert on pubs. What I hear from people fairly regularly, though, is that, they think in some ways it's hard to have a successful campus pub when your pub is also the place where you eat breakfast. That's what I hear all the time. It's, you imagine the pub experience, or I would think you're imagining it as, this
Party.
is this real sort of cool adult party kind of thing. But, when you look over there and you see the Cheerios, it's, no, I still feel like I'm a kid. So I understand that that's a little bit challenging. I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that is. I know from time to time students talk about, well, maybe we need to have our own building or something like that, our own pub. I'd be a little cautious on that because so I saw a piece on campus pubs, I forget where it was, might have been in the Maclean's magazine recently, talking about how even at large institutions, a lot of the campus pubs are losing a lot of money.
Really?
Well, because you've got all the staff and so on, and you'd really you have to be doing a lot of volume, to pay the cost of running a pub. And if you're a small institution, it's pretty hard to see how you'd have the kind of customer base to keep that operating on 5 nights a week or 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
I think there's frequently a temptation when you're a student pub. This happened at my previous university. We needed more residences, and we were having trouble accommodating the influx of students, and a great opportunity presented itself. A hotel went bankrupt. We bought it. It was on the river, beautiful place, and it had a bar in it because it was a hotel.
Yeah.
And of course the student union said, oh, now we'd like that bar and we're going to take that over. And we said, well, okay, but be careful. But of course they immediately, they wanted it to be open, every day of the week from noon until midnight or 2 a.m. or something like that. And they, this was way too ambitious for the number of students they had. So, you could go down there and find that any day of the week, yeah, okay, so they've got 2 or 3 staff people working there and nobody in the bar.
Yeah.
It went bankrupt pretty quickly. So that's the challenge, I think, when you're really small. Can you, operate something that is going to have a sufficient customer base to keep it afloat without overextending yourself.
I do want to throw a little bit of my own 2 cents in here for a minute. I find that with the pubs that they're the pubs that always happen every year. I'm thinking of the Halloween pub and the Mardi Gras pub.
Pubs, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think although they are put, stuff is put into it that makes it good. But what I think is because people know that those 2 are good and people show up, I'm pretty sure, what I find anyway, is that pub success, like how fun it is for each individual person, depends on how many people show up. So if...
Chicken and egg problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So if a couple people show up and it's not very good because there's not enough people, so nobody else comes because it's not very good. But if everybody knows everybody's going to be coming, then that's when it's good. So what I think, and this is just me throwing it in there, that if we have more pubs that are regular basis, we know that they're good, like the ones that always happen every year, and we build up those ones, then that's what's going to make pub life better, and then maybe that'll bring up like, oh, pubs are really good here.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that.
They'll bring up the life of the pubs at the other, like the smaller pubs, and that'll just kind of circulate. I think that's just my opinion of how it's going to how we could bring it up. But that's
Oh,
what
I'd
I'm just
agree with
thinking.
you. It makes sense to me that you sort of want to do it incrementally and start from a foundation of success and build from there.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, those are my questions.
Yep, I'm finished with my questions for now too.
Yeah. What a
Okay.
great session.
Yeah, this
Awesome.
was really good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, as soon as you have more questions, give me a call.
All right, we'll have to do that. We definitely
I will
will.
gladly come back.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Richard, for
Alrighty.
being in the booth with us today.
Thank you very
It was
much.
an honor and a pleasure.
Okay, so thank you to everyone who sent in their questions. I know we didn't get every single question, but who knows? Maybe next time when we have Dr. Myers in again, maybe your question will pop up. And when that happens, we'll make sure to ask if anybody else has any more questions, because I'm sure everybody will be thinking of some more questions.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank you again, and that's all the time we have for today. So thank you for tuning in to Algoma U Radio, The Aura. Catch us next time. We don't know when the next time is actually going to be from now. We'll keep you updated on our Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff. So I'm John.
I'm Richard Myers.
And I'm Kim Michael. Stay true, Algoma U.